Mvelase was shot dead, his car set alight, and others wounded as tensions between e-hailing drivers and taxi operators reached a breaking point. And widely shared on social media, sparking protests and raising urgent calls for change. Now, after weeks of unrest, a breakthrough agreement has been reached in Kwa Dabeka and Clermont between the KwaZulu-Natal e-hailing council and local taxi associations, facilitated by the police and the Provincial Department of Transport. The deal promises better enforcement, stronger relations, and a safer, more cooperative future. But the question is, will it hold? We are joined by Rudolph Lungile Mabece, legal specialist in transport, commercial and ICT law, to tell us a bit more about this. Rudolph, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Take us back to that tragic night at Maponya Mall. Why did this conflict between e-hailing and taxi operators escalate to such a level of violence?
Good afternoon. It was not supposed to have happened in the first place. And the reason why it was not supposed to have happened is because law enforcement is supposed to do its work.
Yeah.
And the taxi operators are aware of what the law provides, that they are not the law enforcers. But if it's other people other than the taxi operators, those people as well should be arrested. But there's also an issue about how the malls are not appropriately designating the different public transport facilities modes. Because if there's no recognition of a particular mode in a facility like a mall, that may lead to a situation where the other operators may regard those who don't have a designated area as not being recognized in a particular facility.
Let's talk about what the legalities look like as we speak, because I mean, it's fair to say we cannot go on this way. But is there anything you can tell us around the laws that currently govern the relationship between the taxi operators and e-hailing service in our country, in South Africa?
There is no law specifically governing the relationship between e-hailing services and minibus taxi operators. There is one law that governs all the operators. That is the National Land Transport Act. And that law requires all the operators to not only comply with their license conditions and the National Land Transport Act, but to also comply with all the other applicable laws of the country.
It is now 19 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African Time. We are in current conversation with Rudolph Lungile Mabece, a legal specialist in transport, commercial and ICT law, helping us to better understand the legal rights and protections of e-hailing drivers amidst the rising transport conflicts in South Africa. There has been an agreement that has been reached between the two parties in KwaZulu-Natal, but let's find out what that actually means and if it will be enforced on the roads. It's 20 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African Time. We'll continue the conversation right after this.
Midday vibes, great programming, and good company. This is Channel Africa.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Bina l'export depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté. communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
The Upside with Tebogo Lekhuleni and Mmatsheko Mosito, bringing Africa's voices to the world. On Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is 21 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African time. We continue our conversation about better understanding the legal rights and protection of e-hailing service drivers in South Africa amid the transport conflicts between themselves and the Taxi Association in South Africa. And we continue to do that with Rudolph Lungile Mabece, legal specialist in transport, commercial and ICT law. Rudolph, let's talk about this agreement that was formed and signed in Kwa Dabeka and Clermont. Let's better understand what are the key commitments from both the parties who are representing the e-hailing services and the Taxi Association.
Yes. All one can gather from what the agreement provides is that they have a right to coexist and that the law enforcement will also play its part in ensuring that the operations of both the minibus taxi operators as well as the e-hailing operators is respected and they are all allowed to coexist and operate. That's the essence of what that agreement from what we hear. But if one looks in terms of what is supposed to be the case in law, what is supposed to be the case in law is that the PRE, the provincial regulatory entity of the KZN that was said to be involved in this arrangement, was supposed to have actually clarified the legal position of each of the different modes, that they have a legal right to coexist. And that legal right is protected by law. Any person who interferes with that legal right should be the subject of law enforcement. And in terms of the National Land Transport Act, the SAPS, the police, the provincial traffic officers, the local traffic officers, as well as the inspectors that are established in terms of the law, the National Land Transport Act, by the MECs, are the enforcers. They should make sure that every licensed operator is basically allowed to operate as the license provides.
Okay, so let's look at let's track back a little bit and look at the National Land Transport Amendment Act, and of the year 2023, if memory serves me correctly, and the changes there. How do those then affect the way e-hailing services is regulated in South Africa? Does it affect that? Because you mentioned the coexistence of the different transport, modes, and that they need to operate under the law, but that's not what we're seeing. So how does the amended National Land Transport Act change the way e-hailing services are regulated?
Okay, maybe let me start by indicating what is the current position.
Right.
Current position of the e-hailing service providers is that they hold operating licenses in terms of Section 67 of the Act as charter service, because it provides for pre-booking. That section provides for pre-booking. And as well as in terms of Section 66 of the Act, which also provides for pre-booking, and that is the section that deals with the meter taxes for now. This is based on the practice note that was issued by the National Department to give clarity to the provinces in terms of how they must handle e-hailing services for now. And now the new amendments to the Act, which is Section 66, capital A, specifically designed to regulate the e-hailing services. It provides that an e-hailing service provider must have a platform that is being used. So all what changes is the minimum requirements for one to operate an e-hailing service. And that minimum requirement includes an operating license issued now in terms of that section 66 capital A, as well as having a platform provider that is registered with the National Public Transport Regulator. So it's being more specific, but it also clarifies what a platform provider should comply with.
Okay. I want to go back to this agreement in KwaZulu-Natal. This was between Kwa Dabeka and Clermont. Two questions. Are they the only ones who have reached an agreement? Are we seeing other associations and provinces reach similar agreements on a way forward between the taxis and the e-hailing services to bring peace on the roads? And the second one is, from a legality point of view, is this agreement binding? You mentioned that it's not really bringing laws into effect, but is it binding in any way? So if someone does break the law and they prohibit e-hailing service providers from doing their jobs, can they be held accountable?
The legal position, as I indicated, that there is no need for an agreement between various modes for the purpose of operations.
Okay.
That's the legal position. The agreements, remember, if you have associations, taxi associations that enter into an agreement, and they enter into an agreement as those taxi associations, that is only binding to them. And if you notice, in most instances where there have been violence, it's the taxi associations that have denied involvement, as is the case also with regard to the Maponya Mall incident, where it's being questioned as to whether these people belong to the taxi association or not. So that kind of agreement where there is the denial of the faces of the people who commit this violence is unlikely to have an effect. But we can just believe that at least creating that relationship may assist to create a more open environment, as it has also been happening in Gauteng with the MSC of Roads and Transport, who has been trying to bring together the different operators, different modes, and I think I understand on a weekly basis, so that there's an ongoing engagement to respect and recognize each other.
Okay, I hear what you're saying from a Rudolph, from a human being to human being perspective. You know, let's all get along, let's all do this together. But we know that it's not as simple as that. So explain to us now from a legal perspective what the best way is to go about this. What is the best way to neutralize the situation and the relations between e-hailing service, I beg your pardon, and taxi operators?
The best way to go about this includes all the stakeholders to come together and basically allow the law to take its course.
How?
The provincial regulatory entities that are the ones that are licensing also have a responsibility of monitoring and providing oversight on public transport. That is in terms of Section 24, subsection 1 of the National Land Transport Act. And that's what they need to do. And the National Land Transport Act also provides for the cooperation of the different law enforcement agencies, including sharing jurisdiction. So that law enforcement needs to go beyond what is currently being done, and the culprits need to be arrested. And in fact,
Rudolph,
the law provides even further than that.
Rudolph, we're going to have to park it there for today. We have run out of time, but thank you so much for shining a light on this very important matter. It's 30 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African time. I think the biggest concern for me are the people on the ground who still are requesting and may be denied by associations from entering an e-hailing service. What are the repercussions there? It doesn't seem like there are any legally binding recourse in such situations. So we still find a way forward to fix it. It's 31 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African time. Figileli Nwate is standing by with sports.
Sports on Channel Africa.